Firstly, we must understand what Grissom means by the creative treatment of actuality. All documentaries are non-fiction, but that doesn't mean they can't be made to look aesthetically pleasing. All the power lies within the editing. Editors can change the order of something if that means it will look better or make it more interesting to watch. Documentaries are believed to have the purpose of educating and teaching audiences something they don't already know. They are believed to represent reality artistically, but does this mean we shouldn't trust them? If you think about it in the way that, because documentaries are about reality and real scenarios, in some cases it would be hard to capture everything as it happens in that moment. Films aren't made in one take, so why would documentaries be any different? If you were to point a camera at anyone, they will act up for it and not be natural. So the people in charge of filming these people will obviously have to do a few takes before getting a natural shot. And it is natural because they aren't acting, they're not actors, they're doing what they would normally do in their normal surroundings. All documentaries are non-fiction, but not all non-fiction are documentaries, what with reality TV and docudramas. Documentaries and reality TV should most definitely not be confused with the other, seeing as though reality TV is for entertainment purposes. Everyone knows that reality TV has some scripting, which can leave seeds of doubts when it comes to documentaries. As for docudramas, they are reenactments of real events, a reconstruction, if you will. Some things may have been changed for entertainment purposes, but the main bulk of it is based on true events. Some people will prefer to watch these as they are easier to watch than documentaries, less boring in some cases. Grissom's definition was definitely more prominent and relevant in his time back when he coined documentary. However, that's not to say it's not still useful today, because it is. It helps define the blurred line between what is real and what is added for the audience benefit. Flaherty's Nanook of the North, for example, showed Inuits hunting with spears, even though at that time their choice of hunting weapon was different, although a spear was the weapon of choice previously. So technically it isn't false, but it isn't really a true representation of the Inuit's life. A spear was most likely used for dramatic effect. This just shows how the truth can be manipulated. It's not false footage being used, but it isn't exactly true either. In some cases, some things may be changed or adjusted slightly so the audience will enjoy it more or find it easier to understand. It's not that it's not necessarily true, it could have been true at a previous time. Back in 2011, Terry Pratchett presented a documentary in which he told his story of having Alzheimer's and the possibility of him being euthanized if the time ever came, alongside with other stories from different people also choosing to die. It is a very powerful documentary in the way it handles such a controversial issue that euthanasia is. It stirred up a lot of opinions and attracted a lot of criticism when it was written about in the media. Euthanasia in itself was controversial, but this documentary went one step further and showed a man taking his own life in the Dignitas clinic in Switzerland. This can be seen as both a strength and a weakness. A strength as it has a real strong impact on people. It shows the reality of illnesses that has a serious impact on someone's quality of life and the struggle they have making the decision on whether euthanasia is the right decision for them. But at the same time, it's also a weakness, because very few people could handle watching a man die. It isn't the most pleasant of viewings. It did stir up a lot of criticism of where it should even be aired or not. But really, isn't that what a documentary should do? Get its audience to talk about the issues and show us just how bad we are at sweeping issues under the carpet, so to speak. Another weakness is in the beginning of the documentary and sporadically throughout the programme. Terry Pratchett is in a room surrounded by lights and is talking. To me, it feels too staged. It's too neat with his nicely framed medium close-ups and perfectly lit room. Euthanasia isn't neat or perfect. People have to travel away from their homes to travel to somewhere where euthanasia is legal, most likely the Dignitas clinic in Switzerland, where all kinds of euthanasia are legal. A lot of people are against euthanasia, so it's something that would most likely be kept a secret. People would be kept in the dark about it. So going back to Pratchett's perfectly lit room, it doesn't really make sense, unless you look at it like he's shining the light on an issue. that needs to be spoken about, in which case would be quite good. But for me, I feel it's two-stage. Another strength for me is how open Terry Pratchett is about his Alzheimer's and his wish to die. It makes him easier to connect with and to listen to as well. In addition to something else that makes Pratchett easy to connect with is in the final part of the documentary, where he's with the gentleman choosing to die and the wife of said gentleman. And after the man has taken the pills, you can hear what sounds like him retching, and is not allowed to have water. This upsets Pratchett, who we see close up is almost crying, and then we see the wife as well, who is trying her hardest to keep it together for her husband, who mentions he can go to sleep just by his wife stroking his hand. These are all strengths. These are the things that make it personal. These aren't just any people, they had names. Peter Smedley, the man who allowed to have his euthanization on camera. Andrew Colgan, who chose to end his suffering in the Dignitas Clinic also. Real people with real illnesses and genuine heartbreaking stories to tell that we can connect with. Not necessarily relate to, but it does stir up a lot of emotions in us. We feel sad for Peter and Andrew and their families also, who are sorry for their loss. We get a really personal insight into these people's lives and their mindsets. We see their families' heartbreaks, and we can only imagine what their lives are going to be like now that their beloved ones have passed. With regards to how this documentary will affect and influence my own creative practice, I've always liked hearing what people think about controversial issues. I like seeing how they react and seeing what opinions it stirs up. This documentary inspires me to make something, whether that be for TV or film, but something that would have an impact on people and maybe even change their views on issues that need to be discussed, whether they like it or not, to allow them to see things from a different perspective and to cover all sides of the story in an open